What's up, everybody? Cinephile Mike is here, and it is day 55 of Oscar Rewind, my bi-weekly series of video commentary that reflect the work of this past year's Oscar nominees and winners. I dig deep into those IMDb profiles, and my hope is that you will discover a new, older favorite or revisit something you haven't seen in a while. Now, as always, I will be discussing the recent Oscar connection, awards history for the film, the box office information, critical response, and as always, these reviews are spoiler-free. Now, before we jump in, do me a favor and click that subscribe button. You definitely want to be a part of all the cinematic goodness coming your way. So, we are in the second part of our Visuals Month, and having looked at a triad of visual effects nominees, we are now in the middle of our cinematography triad. And next up is A24's genre-defying film, The Lighthouse. Co-written by brothers Robert and Max Eggers and directed by Robert, The Lighthouse was Robert's follow-up to the well-received The Witch, which I actually talked about earlier on Rewind this season. So Eggers is back. The Lighthouse was released in the fall of 2019 after winning the Fipresci Prize at its debut at the Cannes Film Festival earlier that year. Now, by the end of its theatrical run, the film made $10,867,104 at the domestic box office, with an additional $7,228,405 at the international box office, giving it a worldwide total of $18,095,509. Critically, the film was also well received, garnering a 90% critical score on Rotten Tomatoes from 397 reviews and a 72% popcorn meter culled from over 1,000 audience reviews. Award season-wise, the film ended with a sole Oscar nomination, which was for Jarin Blaschke for Best Cinematography, who, as you probably figured right now, is the reason that The Lighthouse is here. Blaschke is a regular Eggers collaborator, having served as his cinematographer on all past projects, save Eggers' very, very first short film back in 2005. Blaschke earned his second Oscar nomination this past season for his absolutely stunning work on Nosferatu. That was actually one of those films when I saw the trailer, I said, that's a cinematography nominee right there. Some other quick highlights worth mentioning for The Lighthouse. Blaschke received a BAFTA nod for cinematography. It had 2 Critics' Choice Awards nods, one for Blaschke and the other for Best Supporting Actor for Willem Dafoe. Blaschke and Dafoe would go on to win these categories at the Independent Spirit Awards, which also nominated the film for Best Male Lead for Robert Pattinson, Best Director for Eggers, and Best Editing for Lisa Ford. And there were almost an additional 36 wins from over 170 nominations spread across various critic circles, festivals, and smaller award circles. So, let's get into it. Set in the 1890s, Ephraim Winslow, played by Robert Pattinson, has arrived on a small, isolated island, which is pretty much just consisting of the lighthouse of our title, off the coast of New England. He has arrived to start work as a wickie, or lighthouse keeper, and train under his new supervisor, who he has arrived there with, Thomas Wake, played by Willem Dafoe. The contract is to be for a month, and it will just be the 2 of them here. The home they are staying in leaves something to be desired, as it looks like one really, really powerful storm is going to blow this whole fixture away. Now, at first seeming nice, Wake quickly proves to be a very harsh boss and really puts Winslow through the ringer, making him do every menial, painful job, from emptying the chamber pots, maintaining all of the machinery, carrying heavy kerosene tanks up and down the stairs, walking back and forth with the coal and the needs to keep the machines going, and every job almost except for bringing him into the actual lantern room, which is where Wake spends most of his time quietly and secretly ensconced. Now, as the days and nights go by, sometimes there's a good relationship between the 2, and sometimes things are a little bit fraught and antagonistic. And as they go through, Winslow begins having these odd dreams and visions at nights and really starts to wonder what is real and what is not. And as they finally reach the end of the month, due to a change in the wind, which may have been caused by a superstition I won't spoil here, the boat is unable to come and get them to make their journey back, and thereby they are remaining trapped on the island. And as time continues to go on, there's a lack of resources and the pressures are mounting, and one is left to wonder what is going to happen when you put 2 men, each with pasts that come out, in this very isolated setting. I think that's one of my shorter summaries I've done in a while, but it's purposeful. I have to say, The Lighthouse is one of those films that deserves to be slowly peeled away layer by layer as one does with an onion. There are smaller details I neglected to include specifics, but I'm going to say there's some interesting subplots if you pay attention to small, minute details. I'll say one involves a scrimshaw of a mermaid. There's some superstitions around seagulls, who here are not the very pleasant, peaceful animals that we're used to seeing when we go to the beach. And varied underwater fantasies. And also a concoction of honey and turpentine. Sound appetizing? The script is very unique, and you may find you want to turn on the subtitles at times if you have a chance. Much of the dialogue, as the film said in a postscript, was inspired and drawn from various period sources, from Herman Melville to real-life lightkeepers' journals and the work of American novelist Sarah Orne Jewett. And this specific focus really gives a truly authentic feel. Pattinson and Dafoe, both known for their wild, methods and work ethics, completely lose themselves in these roles, and the complete throw to abandon works so well to keep the audience off kilter. Pattinson's intense, expressive eyes, captured often in intense close-ups, juxtapose the big bared teeth, and I'm sorry to say this, but how can I not, the Green Goblin-like cackle that has become Dafoe's trademark. As we watch both men descend, it's done in this slow burn manner that adds to that olden time Gothic element that has kind of become Eggers' trademark. Now, this film was shot in a standard 4:3 frame instead of the traditional 16:9 widescreen, so it really brings you into the focus of what Eggers wants you to see. Additionally, this film is entirely in black and white, so it helps the viewers really hone in on specific elements where the whites really do pop against the black and grays of other elements, and set against this vast emptiness of this island in the middle of the ocean just adds to that sense of despair, expertly captured through Blaschke's lens. Now, as I said, this film is genre-defying, and it is just that, in case you're wondering. More often than not, people have often categorized this film as a horror film, and it's easy to see why. But you could make arguments that it is a supernatural film. Not every supernatural film is a horror film. There's suspense. You might even say, this is a psychological thriller. How much of this is real? Eggers manages to walk a lot of lines. And also, it's funny, in an interview, Pattinson actually said that he believed this movie is a comedy about a man who just wants to find approval in his boss. And then, I saw this film in 2019 before I'd heard him say that, and now I rewatched it now, 6 years later, and having that information, I'm like, you know what? There are some moments that I'm like, yeah, comedy. Little twisted, but comedy. As his work has shown, I have to say, Eggers is great at these slow burn films that make an impact, with select scenes throughout, as he's done in a few films, make me really excited to know what he's going to do next. He becomes one of those directors for me that I get excited for each project when it's coming. Additionally, Blaschke does some excellent work. The 4 features they've done, The Witch, The Lighthouse, The Northman, Nosferatu, they all have very distinct looks that make you feel their stories. So, there's some amazing visual storytelling here. For me, The Lighthouse is a very powerful 4-star film. The imagery and performances are strong, and this film belongs in the echelon of the psychological thriller for me. Maybe it could have been a little bit shorter. I mean, I'm okay with slow burn, but I felt sometimes this one was a little too self-indulgent at a few moments. But hey, that's just me. If you would like to catch or rewatch The Lighthouse, as of this recording and posting, the film is currently streaming on HBO Max. So, there you have it. We have a different type of horror film to look at as we wrap up the cinematography triad later this week. So for that, you have to come back on Friday. As always, if you like what you heard here, please click that subscribe button, like and share the video, spread the word. You can follow me, Cinephile Mike, on all social media platforms and on Letterboxd, and find lots of great additional content on my website, cinephilemike.com. All right. Happy watching, everyone. And until next time, this is Cinephile Mike saying take a break and watch something new.